Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. As always, I am Mike Chisholm. As always, I am excited to be here. I am excited to have conversations with very cool people under the topic of male mental wellness in 2022 and beyond. It is very cool to be here. It is a highlight of my week doing these. Broken record. If you haven't downloaded the He Changed It app yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Lots of cool things about to come down the pipe. I keep saying that, but it keeps being true. The future is bright in knowing that there are people out there that want to help, specifically men in where we're at in the current period of time, in our current period of culture. Also, if you like the podcast, would you please do just that? Would you actually make it official? Click the button, like it, and subscribe to it, share it. We would love that very, very much. And I just appreciate all the support that we've been getting on this show. It has been nothing but overwhelming. We're very excited. We know we're touching a nerve here. And we're doing some cool things in the world of mental wellness. Today's show is no exception. We're very, very excited to have Coach Clint Pratch is going to be on heCast today and share his story with us, what has brought him to where he's at right now, and the pivot that life sometimes gives to us. And when those pivots happen, we have a choice as to how we can deal with those things. Clint has an unbelievably personal story that has led him to where he's at, and basically given him the vantage point of saying, I am going to take some of the tough things that I've been through in my entire life, and I am going to use those as fuel to make the world a better place and to make other people's personal worlds a better place. Coach Clint Pratch, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be on heCast today. You had to get out of your office. You want to do this in your car because that's one of the only quiet places you have these days. Clint, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. It sounds like you're doing great work here. It's an amazing podcast. So yeah, I'm pleased to be here.
Oh, thanks, man. We're really pleased to have you here. Before we kind of get into your story about what led you to where you're at, I'd love to just get a quick little bio, quick little background as to where you came from, and then we'll switch over to where you're going here. But I mean, you haven't always been a life coach. You haven't always been in the business of wanting to coach people and make their lives better. You progressed to this point. Where did you progress from?
Well, originally it was from my mother, and then well, I was born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta, and I came from a family that was really sports driven. We were a family of competitors, and it was a great family. It was a fantastic upbringing. And then from that, went forward and became a personal trainer as a career, and love everything about being a personal trainer. Took a hiatus in that and traveled and worked on cruise ships, and kind of lost myself a little bit in that. I think some of you that have traveled can relate. You can lose yourself quite easily in travel, and it's addicting. But through some hardships there, I found myself back in the world of fitness. I had a major breakup in a relationship that I had, and then fitness saved me. It really did. It saved my life in that scenario. And then came back to Kelowna, BC, Canada, and it was just a match for me, the area. And then it was a match for me to get back into fitness. So I got back into fitness, and like I said, it saved me in so many ways. Finding something to do to help others really kind of matched for me. But I was still kind of like, I would say selfish in a way. And then I had my son Caius, and then I think any father out there knows the change that happens when you have a child. It changes you. And then I mean, in one way or another, it's going to change you, whether good, bad, or indifferent. It's going to be a big change. And it changed me. I think it brought a lot of things out of me that I didn't know I had inside me, and it matured me to the point where I wanted to be mature, and I didn't want a lot of the things I used to want. So it was great. And then 7 months later, he passed, and that definitely changed me tremendously through the trauma and through the lack of him being there. Changed me immensely, and I can't not get teary-eyed when I speak about it, obviously,
Of
because
course.
it's yeah. But
Okay. First off,
anyways,
how long ago was that, Clint? How long ago did he pass?
yeah, that was 5 years ago. Yeah,
5 years ago. Okay.
5 years.
So, you know, there are going to be people right now who are uncomfortable where we are right now. And
Yeah.
what I want to do is I want to help them, encourage them to say, hold on, don't click stop yet, because
Yeah,
we're on the other
yeah.
side of this by
There's
5 years. And not only that, you have taken one of the
yeah.
most traumatic things that can ever happen to somebody, and you have turned it in. You have made it almost your life mission to turn it into a positive, right?
I think that's that was my next thing there. Yeah, not to go too far down the doldrums here.
Oh no, we can.
But
We could just tell our viewers,
yeah,
tell the guys that are out there, it's worth it. It's worth it. And
yeah, it is.
yeah, that's not what
It
the
is.
theme is of this podcast. It's focusing on the solution rather than the problem itself.
Totally. And 2 years after he passed, me and my wife were in Kais's mother. We were in Victoria. Maybe it was a year and a half. It was about a year and a half actually after, and we were in Victoria and driving down, and I just heard something from someone that also lost a child, and they said I wouldn't have never had so much wisdom and strength unless I lost a child. And I took that and I grabbed hold of it, and I just thought that is got to be me, because I was down, so down. I have to grab it something, and I grabbed it and I said, I know how to help people. I know how to help people through being a personal trainer and teaching spin classes, boot camps. I know how to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use this idea and become it. And I have. It's basically Caius, my son who passed, gave me a gift that I could either choose to take or not to take. And I choose to take that gift, the fact that, that he was here, and become something that's greater, that's wiser, that's stronger, that I can be there for people that are going through something. And I think that it's a blessing. But I always say, I always want to preface this, and it's just for him, and that I would take it all back. I take all that gift back for 1 second with him. And so if anybody's listening thinking that I wouldn't do that, I would do that.
Yeah,
But
of course.
but that's not in the cards. That's just not in the cards.
No.
It the saying, it is what it is. And I choose to take it, and I choose to pull it into an area of my life where it's helping others. And that's my goal.
I want to ask you about that for a second here. Now, I'm a big personal development guy. And one of the pieces of personal development that has hit me the most in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, not giving an F, not giving a fuck. Yeah. It's a men's podcast. We can curse here if we want. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And there's a chapter in that book that talks about how not everything is our fault, but yet everything is our responsibility. And the Coles Notes version of it is, hey, look, there's things that happen in our life that is out of our control, right? Things are not necessarily our fault. You talked about, there's a couple of things that you talked about, talking about your bio, like not having a purpose, so you're jumping on the cruise ships, you get a little addicted to that, trying to figure out who you are, then you talk about a relationship that ended, and if they end badly, and what relationships end well, by the way, usually we've got some trauma that shows up no matter what's happening if a relationship ends. But and then you had the ultimate, you lost a child. It's really easy to read a personal development book like that and say, okay, those things weren't your fault, but how you deal with it is your responsibility. You could make the choice to get swept away by the river, get addicted to drugs, get addicted to bad things or whatever, because of, whatever reason. At that point, it's your choice. You could make the choice to take it and try and do something positive with it. Easy to read that off the printed page, easy to feel empowered when you're rudderless and to say, you know what? Yeah, this is my responsibility. What I'm going through right now is my responsibility. I got to take control and I got to do that. Very easy to think that way when you're reading that. Clint, you lived it. Like, you have literally lived the fact that you're got to take responsibility in this horrible situation that was not your fault. The first question I guess I have is how did you lose him? And at what point afterwards was it that what you just referred to, that period a year and a half later, that you made that choice to take responsibility? Did you know it right away? Were you in the cloud for a while? How did that transpire?
Wow, great questions. I think one of the things while you were speaking that hit me was there is another layer to this. Any father that's lost, any mother or father that's lost a child, there's another layer to this. Is you you take on the responsibility. You feel like it is your fault that they passed, and there is some guilt in that. And that, I think, is the hardest part to get through. And I don't think you ever do completely get through it. So you just live.
Yeah.
You live with it, and you learn how to cope with it.
Right.
But to going through it, that was a great question, because you said, there was a fog, and there was definitely a fog. Even after hearing that, I mean, I was down in the doldrums, just faking it, just to be amongst people. Otherwise, and being with others, that people that I knew would come up to me and say, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And when somebody says that, they're not that they don't mean to try and help, but what happens is you have to console them, because they say things like, I can't even imagine. And you don't want them to imagine, despite what they may think. You don't want them to relate to you in that category, because it's not a fun thing to relate about.
Right.
So you console them about their thoughts, and it is draining. But what happened was amazing. I got to a point where I realized there's this simplest statement there is: it is what it is. And it really kind of just is, like, in a sense that bad things happen.
Yeah.
And there's, bad things happen to good people, bad things happen to bad people.
Yeah.
Bad things just happen.
Yep.
And you just learn how to be and how to be, to live, and try to get the most out of your life, the cards that you were laid. And I think that it is just, when you start to think about meaning, you will go down a painful route. So to take away meaning for me, when you want to make it, sometimes you want to make life romantic, and the Disney shows and all that,
significant, right? What's
put a
the
little
significance
bow
to
in it, right?
this? What does this mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This just doesn't it's not workable, at least not for me. It's not workable. I need to know that it is what it is for everybody. There's like this joke, it's not really a joke, but you think about it, you're in an elevator with people, and if you close your eyes and you think about it, and what you're thinking about is what they're thinking about you.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, what's funny about that is they're also thinking the same thing.
Yes.
They're also thinking about what you're thinking about them. And it's funny how we as humans interact in that way. So I just hope that my presence can bring some alleviation to all that meaningfulness that people have, and that hurt them.
So you said something earlier that got me thinking about some of the research that Candy and her team have been doing with the company, and talking about where men are at. There's a lot of guys out there that are in that fog right now, whatever it might be, and they are faking it. They're faking it through life. They're faking every conversation that they have. They're literally just getting through it. It's like they got blinders on. And in my opinion, based on what we've talked about, what other guests have talked about, the guys that are in the fog like that need some sort of, they need to be pulled out of it for a second. They need an awareness that needs to show up. so they then can become proactive again. Was there a moment for you where that happened? And if there are guys right now that are in that fog, whatever it might be a breakup, it might be a lack of purpose, it might be a job, they're working a job that they hate, and they're just feeling stuck. They're feeling that way right now. What would you say to those guys?
This is tough. It's really tough because, and I think that's why you can stay there for so long. You can live in this, you can do it for your life,
Yes.
and it's toxic. You become really toxic internally and physically, and it's just, I'm sure it's a haven for cancer. I'm sure it's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
And the reason why people stay there, because initially my answer is that you got to get real. You got to get real with it. And my realness was how it came to light, so to speak. And it was in the world of being weak. It took me some time to understand it, but I was too weak to save him. It was just, was spinning in my head, and it's probably something I've had my whole life. Is too weak. I'm too weak.
I'm not
weak.
enough.
And I struggle with it. It was very similar. Yeah. But I remember the word weak was really, really, it hit home.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that drove me into sports was, I'm too weak. I'm going to show everyone that I'm strong. And it drove me in personal training and in lifting and everything, and cardiovascular strength, all this stuff. So I'm not too weak. I'm not too weak. I'm not too weak, through proving it. And
right.
it's funny now looking at that, is going, that's just there. That's just in your head. And it's your self-talk. It's not real. It's not real, but you got to be aware of it. You got to go into it and just hit it. And like, even announcing to people that I feel too weak, felt weak. And I just did it. I just went through it. I just hit it, and it was hard, and it was to cry in front of people, and to be weak in front of people, to be vulnerable for people. It was hard, and continues to be hard, because it's just something that was ingrained in me probably from a young age.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right. I'm going to stop you right there, because I think you just hit a real key point. Because at the end of the day, you learned. I don't want to put words in your mouth, which is why I'm asking. But it seems to me like you learned that being vulnerable, you used to think that being vulnerable and being weak were the same thing, but you've learned that is not that is so not true. Being vulnerable and weak are not the same things. And there's a lot of guys out there who think that that's the same thing. It's that traditional stereotype of that we need to desperately break out of, because our culture is changing so quickly, but yet the subconscious pathways that we've built in our mind, be it genetic, be it cultural, be it a locker room, old school behavior, whatever, we need to teach ourselves new things. One of the things we need to teach ourselves is that vulnerability and weakness are not the same thing. Would you agree with that?
Totally. Yeah. Vulnerability is powerful. It's a powerful thing that,
it's strength. Man, it's the opposite of weak. It's strength, right? It's a power tool.
Yeah, and because it's a place where you can showcase your authenticity, who you really are. And that's awesome, man. That's your inner child. It's like, it's so much beauty and power in it. It's great. No, vulnerability, I mean, to me, like it's like it used to be like a showcase of weakness. It's not really that way anymore. It's just great. No, vulnerability, it's just awesome. I don't know. I think I seek it now. I seek trying to be vulnerable as much as possible, because it's authentic. It's who you are.
But you're a jock. I mean, you grew up as a personal trainer with the idea of okay, no, I'm just gonna, if I can make that last set, if I can hit that target amount to lift, to deadlift, whatever it is that you're doing, that is counterintuitive to what you just said. Like, it's so funny that the discovery of that point, and it's beautiful. As far as I'm concerned, anytime a man specifically a man who's been told, like, I didn't tell you this before when we were talking about He Changed It and HeCast. One of the things that we have to do, a little side project that we have, is we want to take back the term man up. We literally want to take back that term. Like this company, we want to grow this thing globally and take back a phrase out of our culture and redefine it. Manning up is not stuffing things down. It's not not crying. Manning up is recognizing where you're at, taking responsibility, and doing what is necessary to fix that problem. That's manning up.
And that feels more real when you say it like that. When you man up, it's like I've come clean to the reality of who I am. Manning up. Yeah, no, it's great. I like that. And you say, Jock, I was thinking about, like, even when I was a teenager to early 20s, I used to get in fights. I used to pick fights just to prove myself in that way. And now it's like, that's the epitome of not healthy. Because it's not healthy to get punched in the face.
No,
and it's not long lasting, and it's just not something you want for your children. It's not something you want for the people that are close to you. You don't want them to have you be hurt, and you also don't want to teach them to hurt others. So it's funny, like these weird places you go to think that you're more of a man, and they're just not real. They're not real.
No, and from a biological standpoint, hey, you got shit in you, you got to get it out. There's positive ways to do that. There's negative ways to do that. And if we just think about it a little bit, getting in a fight, does it raise the testosterone? Yeah. Does it get some anger out? Yeah. It does those things. But so does going to the gym. So does going on the bag. So does doing it in a way where you're not going to get hit. You're not going to get arrested. There are other ways to do exactly the same thing from a biological standpoint that includes the healthy things, but doesn't include the unhealthy things. And it's teaching that. And that's what we have to do. We have to teach that to each other. And by the way, one of the little tricks that Candace and her team are doing, it's almost a hypothesis that we know is true, but He Changed It is going to be the controlled experiment or the controlled test to show this. Vulnerability, when it comes to men can be vulnerable a lot easier than they may think. And they're that way when they try and help people. If you walk by me in the gym, never meeting me ever, and you see me deadlifting where I'm going to hurt myself, right? You instinctively, or most men instinctively, have that urge to walk over and say, hey man, no. You got to straighten your back here and you got to change your form a little bit. Otherwise you could really hurt yourself. Guess what? That's being vulnerable. That's leaving something that you know. And the whole thing about He Changed It is men to come in and leave something that they know or take something that they need. The taking something that they need that's the, oh man, I don't even want to admit, I don't even know that I need something. That's the struggle. But the leaving something that we know, that's vulnerability too. And that's the gateway to being able to be the taker. Does that all make sense to you? Like, is that
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about again, going back to the two individuals, myself now and myself when I was younger. There's a kid on my street. He just always gets stuck in the snow. He's always stuck in the snow. And I end up always pulling over, going, you got to park somewhere else. But here we go, and the old Clint would have been just drive by him and maybe get, the third, fourth time might even just give him the finger or something. He's like, what are you doing, buddy? Like, get with it. Whereas now it's like, it's just so like I want him to get stuck now. I just can't wait to see him again and get in there and help him out, because like the helping stuff, oh man, people just get a taste of it. Just get a taste of it, because the more you give, the more you get. It's such a cliche, but it's so true.
Absolutely.
You get so much more, especially if you're giving your authentic self.
Yeah.
And then it's amazing.
As you say that, I can see the freedom. I can feel the freedom through the cameras here. I can feel the freedom that you feel, and amazing that you feel that freedom. Unbelievable that it took what it took for you to feel that. Let's talk a little bit about as to where you are now, because at the end of the day, you are a coach. You do help people to do this. I want, if somebody resonates with this story, whether we are right now or 6 months or 8 months down the line after we've kind of blown up and you're going back and checking the archives of this, What is it that you're doing right now, and how can people reach out to you and to get some of the coaching that you do? Talk about the coaching that you have evolved yourself into because of these things that you've taken responsibility for. How did you evolve, and what are you doing now?
Lots of things. A lot of it is my skill set, and it's in fitness, and I sell fitness equipment, and I teach boot camps. I teach spin. I still dabble in personal training, still keep the certifications up, and I I don't do any real like online coaching, and I think it's for lack of time. Not that I'm that putting it down.
No.
Just I love the face to face. I'm a face to face. I just love it, and but my social media, I do love social media too, because I love the fact that you can kind of showcase yourself a little bit, and I'm always really light on there, just kind of joking about like different things you could see in fitness that are funny. There's one video that I always kind of come back to that I think is really funny is I'll do these workouts and make fun of all the different online workouts, and one is I'm a kitty cat. Can you do the kitty cat workout? I'm not a kitty cat, but
Yeah.
imagine do the kitty cat workout is you get a medicine ball and you bat it around, or you get somebody with a little laser pointer and you run around trying to catch the laser pointer, and just stupid like lightness, lightening up people's day, and hopefully that's what it does. And one way or another, I mean, even in lockdowns, I kind of made fun of, like, BC, there was a lockdown for, fitness.
Yep.
Gyms were locked down, but malls were wide open, and
Yeah.
and everything was, movie theaters were wide open, and I just did a little workout at a mall, and it was just to make light of the situation, because people can, get dark, and they need some light.
Absolutely. So if somebody wants to follow your social media, where do they follow you?
Just my name, Clint Pratch. Just find me, Clint Pratch.
At Clint Pratch, okay.
Facebook, or at Clint Pratch on Instagram. Yeah, it's not a huge driver for me, but if you do want to, to make your life a little lighter, follow me on Instagram.
Okay, that's cool. And I want to change the shift. I want to shift also to the foundation that you built. I want to talk about that in a minute here, but let's go back to the coaching thing for a second, and the personal trainer thing for a second. Is there, for guys that are out there that haven't made the decision to go change their life yet, but they're kind of maybe even becoming aware, they're learning, okay, you know what, I got to change some things. For me right now, I mean, I'm in my mid 40s, and I'm seeing guys around me dropping like flies, either death or real health concern stuff that makes them have to stop in their tracks and change things. Heart attacks, strokes, all these things are happening earlier and earlier and earlier, it seems like. And I'm getting to the age where people around me, it's happening. Are there any, when somebody comes and sits with you and they talk about some of the goals that they have, or maybe things that they need to implement, are there any things that are fairly, like, it's almost like a pattern, like you're like, yeah, this is similar to, this guy's similar to the last guy, it's similar to the last guy, similar to the last guy. What out there should men know about if they want to make some changes in their life? What are some universal things that you've come across?
I think that people go down the wrong route based on marketing, and it could be like, marketing is not necessarily what you see on TV.
Yeah.
It could be like what their friend did, or just something that they've seen that works, and they, like on Instagram or something, they see that guy that's really ripped on Instagram, they want, oh yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
I'd say if you're truly wanting to make a change for yourself when it comes to fitness and health, I'd say look at your past and what you like to do. What do you like to do? It's very simple. If you just figure out what you would like to do, like a lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll play sports for their health. That can be a start. And there's all sorts of different leagues out there where you can start. If that was something that you would like to do in the past, get started that way. And then maybe that can be the catalyst to getting you better at that sport. So maybe you want to train to be better at that sport. So again, go after what you like. And the other thing is, make it light. So people are so hard on themselves these days. It doesn't work doesn't work to be hard on yourself. So like a lot of times, I used to, back in the day, do intakes at a fitness center.
Yep.
And one of the things I've noticed through trial and error, so somebody say I'm diabetic, or I could see that they're really overweight, and talking about that pain sometimes got them to get going, sometimes.
Right.
But majority of the time, when I talked about losing 20 pounds, being more active with their kids, something lighter, that's when they actually put some money down and said, I'm going to make a change.
Right.
So make it a little bit like a want, as opposed to this thing that you know you need. That, you know, like it's kind of, I don't know why it's funny to me, but I had, you know, a few times where guys like, yeah, I've got type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and I've got a heart condition. I just don't know if this workout's for me. I was like, okay, don't make it about those things. Make it about something different.
You know, I love how you communicated all those kind of scenarios there. And it really goes back to something we've been talking about already, is introspection. And I think that there's a lot of guys who are kind of that in that middle-aged place. We talk about this on quite a few heCasts. But I think it's important, because there's so many of us in this boat where we've maybe followed life the way that we were told, that somebody else told us to. And you alluded to that with the being under the influence of marketing and things when people come to you. And it's mainly because we're kind of lost in a lot of ways. Like maybe we connected the dots that we were told to connect, be it, you know, got the degree, got the job, married the girl, had a couple kids, with very little introspection. We just did it because we were told that's what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And we all got to get to a place, you know, we got to get to a place where it's like, no, fuck that. Stop it. Who are you?
Where am I again?
Who am I? And a lot of guys are afraid when they don't know who they are, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, because just asking that question will activate things that show us who we are and what we like to do. But that introspection is really, really key into personalizing something, making it true, and then maybe not falling prey to the broken habits of the past and creating and forging a new future. Did I lose you?
And you might surprise if you think, like you said it earlier, change can cause trauma. Change can cause trauma. So if you're a part of that scenario where you're changing what you normally do, so you can better yourself, that can be traumatic for you and for people. Like you said, that there's a lot of guys that, you know, they get the job, they get the kids, they get the picket fence, they're you know, they're doing good on paper, and then all of a sudden they just feel like, right? And it's like, and what a lot of it is the vision of others. So they vision you as this, so then you stay that. But that's not actually you.
Yes.
And I think that you got to, like you said, the introspection on yourself is crucial, not just for you, but for them.
Yeah.
And you are going to go through some times where they're going to reject this. You got to push through it. You gotta, because, and if they ultimately reject you, which most of the time they won't, because you'll be a more attractive entity. But if they do, they weren't there for you initially.
Okay. So let's go back to that idea about being introspective. Now, I also, you know, we talk about how important it is to be introspective, to know that, to observe ourselves and give us that permission to do that, give us that permission to change, so we can be our authentic selves. You being your authentic self, you went beyond. When you lost your son, you've also created some other things. You want to be there. You've got a foundation that you want to talk about today. And I want to be very, very, I want to proclaim it from the rooftops, because when what I've found is that many times people who have gone through something traumatic usually have something important to say on the other side of that. And, you know, it's one of the ways that we can turn negatives into a positive, turn a hardship into a blessing, all of those things that we've heard. But at the end of the day, when you really, really start thinking about it and talking about it, when you actually are in the situation where you got to take responsibility, you can do it a little bit or you can do it a lot. You've chosen to do that in a pretty big way. And I want to talk to you about that a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you're doing on that side of things.
Well, the Caius Foundation is a foundation that is built in Caius's name, and we give back to people that have possibly struggled with the. Sorry about that. Hang on.
No, that's okay.
Give back to the people that are suffering from loss, from infant loss, and then also the fact that there is so much in childhood and infancy and family issues out there. We give back to families that need help with that. So like the prevention of infant loss, and there's a charity that's near and dear to me, is the Childhood Advocacy Center, and it's stopping abuse of children, and which is really, it nails me, because I would do anything to have my son back, and for people to abuse their children is really hard for me, and it's not. And it's funny, like initially you hear this and you go, oh, those jerks,
Yeah.
and you more think of it in the root of it all, and the root being where does that come from? It's because it's cyclical. It's a cycle. So breaking the cycle and not really blaming, unless they're that's for the police to do. If there was something like that, that's for them to deal with, but more in the light of breaking the cycle. And and the infant loss, there's a product out there called an owlet, and it goes around the child's feet, and it monitors their saturation levels and their heart rate. And this outlet is really helpful in the fact that sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
It gives parents sleep. It gives parents the ability to see that their child is okay, and that they can sleep and move forward that way. And because if we actually had the sock, I think that we'd still have Caius. So it's something that really I'm passionate about. So there's and then we raise funds in whatever way we can, whether it be whatever kind of fundraiser. I mean, I do some online workouts that I'll raise some money for, and it's just whatever way we can.
Yeah. And where can people find the information about the foundation?
There's a Facebook page, the Caius the Great Foundation.
Can you spell it?
Facebook.
For our audio, can you
Caius,
spell it? Yeah.
Yeah, CAIUS, and the Great Foundation. And then there's also Caius the Great Foundation Instagram.
Oh, that's amazing that you're again taking something that is so personal, so negative, whatever, so traumatic, and turning it into something that can be useful for others. It's funny talking about these lessons that you've learned and some of the things that you have, the awakenings that you've had since going through this. You've mentioned it before, of course. If you would take all of the growth back and regrow those things to not have gone through the experience, but of all the things that you have learned, either about yourself or maybe even tactics that you've employed into your life, what are some of the most important things that you've learned?
To not be hard on yourself, I think that's a more me thing than anything.
Oh, no, hold on. There's a lot of guys who are hard on themselves about shit, like haven't forgiven themselves about things, haven't done I think you've said something that's pretty near and dear to a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys who, when things go south, they own that, and they continue to own it, unfortunately, through the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, which hinders the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So I think you've touched on something pretty powerful there, actually. Hey,
you know what? I'm hard on myself for not recognizing that, because I do know that. So it's funny. Yeah, so true. They people are hard on themselves. Men in particular can be stubborn about that and keep it for a long time.
We keep it inside. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody else knows that we're feeling that way. And it's, hey guys, guess what? We're feeling it. We know.
Yeah, and like just that story this is why this is amazing podcast. You have this story put out there to make it okay for men is amazing. To have it just be okay, to have the the vulnerability be a strength, and not have them everyone be so hard on yourself. Just we forgot. Like, how do we forget that we make mistakes?
Yeah.
How do we forget that? And that's and I think that where it's next level to that is reject the people that don't remember that. Reject the people that don't let you make mistakes.
Yes.
Reject them, because they're not in it for you. They're not really seeing your side. They're not increasing your light. Yep. They're probably stuck in themselves, most likely. If they're going to they're probably using you as a scapegoat for their own mistakes that they're making. And just get out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there. And you can get out of there. Like I my son Cooper and my daughter Karis, they fight. They fight all the time. She's a year and a half and he's 3.5, and they go at it, and she's tough for 1.5. And I say to them, just get out of there. Just get out of there. Because right now you can't cope with your emotions. And I think we get it to the point where we're just like, dang, why didn't I do that sort of thing? And then somebody comes in and reiterates that. Yep. What did you do there? And that's just going to only solidify it with yourself. Get out of there, man. You only, like, the people that you can remember saying, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. People make mistakes, and you know what? I believe in you. And those people, those are the ones you want to lean towards.
And then you want to take that same attitude towards yourself. I've talked on the podcast before about my story with my granddaughter in the children's hospital, the saga that we had there. And I just recently had coffee with somebody who we got to know down in children's hospital. Now, in the time that we arrived, weren't sure what was going to happen with the granddaughter, with her health and cancer and all that stuff. In the time that we arrived, figured it out, all the procedures that happened. And thank goodness our story was a happy one. And we left. This gentleman that I had coffee with the other day, he had been down there a year with his son, and he was down there another 1.5 years after we came home. And he and I had coffee, and now he's home, and the prognosis is very good and everything is happy, but he still has this PTSD. He still has these feelings that are there. And he said to me, he goes, Mike, I'm feeling this survivor guilt. And I said, buddy, I think I can release you of that right now. And he looked at me and he goes, what? I said, look, you've got your son home. You're feeling this guilt for people who didn't have the same ending that you did. Well, I used to feel survivor guilt for you. And he looked at me, he goes, what do you mean? I said, dude, I arrived and I left Children's Hospital. I arrived after you did, and I left 1.5 years before you did. And I would come home, and there were nights where I was actually, thank God I was aware of it, right? But I was like, oh my God, my buddy's still down there. And why am I so lucky to have a granddaughter that we're now resuming and enhancing her life that much more because of what she just went through? And he looked at me, he goes, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I said, my friend, how you feel towards me right now and what you're doing for me is how you need to feel for yourself, and let that guilt go. It's so funny how what you were just talking about, Clint, many times it's good when we're that way for our friends. We forgive our friends. We forgive what they do. We don't judge, or we try not to. And if we do, we try and take it back. Like, we do that, but we don't entitle ourselves to the same treatment inside. And that's just a mind fuck. I don't know why we don't do that, but how powerful is it when we learn that?
Well, and hopefully we can also speak to the people that are judging, that are in that phase of saying, reiterating what you already are hurting about.
Yeah.
Like, if you made that mistake and they're on you about it, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I mean, obviously nobody did that to me when Caius passed, but I was, somebody did. Oh,
Well, right,
I would be quite upset. But
right.
it's just, it's just, again, it goes back to, it is what it is, and the perspective is everything. Your
Yeah.
perspective is different than his, and his perspective is different than yours, and we all live in a different perspective, but then we're also all here.
Yes.
And it is what it is, and he had his situation and you had yours, and now it's time to cope.
Absolutely. And I just feel so empowered having conversations like this, Clint. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day here to talk to our viewers and our listeners about this, and to give that encouragement and give that hope. At the end of the day, if you could come out of it, anybody can come out of it, right? No matter what it is, we can deal with this stuff.
You betcha. And the thing I'll leave you with is, you might think of yourself right now, if you're listening, think, my issues are not as large as in comparison.
Right.
And I'd say, do not compare. Do not compare. Your life is just as important as anyone else's. You have your struggles, and that is what you are dealing with. Like, you can't compare.
Yeah.
So just try to take something out of these. I'm going to be a follower, by the way, out of these podcasts, and hopefully, you can integrate them into your life.
Clint, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for that endorsement too. Off camera, we were talking about what HeChangedIt is doing, and yeah, you're the enthusiasm and the excitement that you've given to us. We appreciate that so very, very much. I hope this isn't the last time that we talk and get updates. As the app starts to grow in all the features and things like that. We'd love to have you as part of the community, Q&As and all sorts of stuff. And at the end of the day, we're just guys helping each other out. And you are a beacon for doing that. And thank you so much for taking the things that you have learned and not just internalizing them, but proclaiming them the way that you are. Thank you for making the world a better place, Clint.
Well, thank you. Yeah, you as well.
They go by so quick. That is another episode of HeCast, the official podcast of HeChangedIt. Thank you so much for all of the time that you have invested in us. We appreciate it. We're going to do our very best to put out even more quality content in helping men win the mental health game, and be there for each other, and support each other, create this awareness that needs to be created. This is the best time of my week doing these things. Like I said, if you haven't downloaded the app yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Go to HeChangedIt.com. You can check out all the details there, where the app is in each app store, the iOS and the Google store. Please share, subscribe, share. HeCast, however it is that you listen or watch us, we're so grateful for things. That is another episode of HeCast, the official podcast of HeChangedIt. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.